At the Election House, Electoral Commission of Namibia, of course, they've had some of the most important work to do over the last week. That's, of course, making sure that the most important tenet of democracy, which, of course, is those elections, that 5 years that we get to choose the people that lead us, that take us into the next 5 years of the social contract, are chosen. And that's the work that they've been doing over the last week and a half. 5,000 voting poll stations across the country, 3,000 polling teams sent out by the EC, and, of course, to ensure that every Namibian that is eligible to vote can make sure that their voice is heard when it comes to local and regional governance. Now, the biggest one, of course, you've seen us the whole time doing our work. You've seen many of the teams of the Namibia Broadcasting Corporation all across the country, all the way up in Opuo, Oranjemund, you name it. They have been around to make sure that we bring you the news. But what goes on behind that works? What is the responsibility that these journalists and these reporters have? How do they make sure, even though they also have their own political views, they keep it independent during such an important moment for the democratic lifeline of this country? Now, to just put on perspective in terms of all of those details and just the logistic behind the coverage, we are now joined by the Director General of the NBC, Mr. Stanley Similo. Thank you so much for making time out to join us.
Good morning, Ricardo, and also good morning to the viewers. Thank you for having me on board.
Well, apologies for the drag. I don't even want to say dragging you out of bed on a Saturday, because you were awake throughout the night with the rest of us here as well. But taking a look at this, I think before we discuss the media conversation, I know, of course, you're one of those people that had witnessed, the move from before independence, right into independence, also from this point of view. Just your initial impressions, really, around the elections and just how Namibia is doing when it comes to democracy and maintaining the processes that are required for us to continue building on that governance.
Maybe before I get there, let me just really, as you young people are saying, give a shout out to the NBC team in its entirety. Everybody literally that has been on board in making sure that Namibians can still listen and read online in terms of what has been happening, because without them, we wouldn't be here today. It wouldn't matter what type of technology you are deploying. This is an industry that is predominantly still people-centric. So the aspect of the human capital element within the business, I think we cannot, and I cannot overemphasize. So for that, I really just want to say thank you very much. And that goes to the extension of those that we've brought in as well, because the teams, we had to cement, get other people in to come and assist as well, either from a technological perspective or even just from being a news person, understanding exactly what NBC does. And this gets extended to the New Era Group, NAMPA, and our own ministry's audiovisual aspect of MICT, because through them, we could bring this picture where everybody could literally see what's happening there. I thought it was just important. And at the same time, having a board that is highly supportive under the chairmanship of Mr. Lazarus Jacobs, and then my own senior management as well, and also our line ministry as well. It's been a daunting task for us, but we are standing and we are here.
And it truly takes a village. It
does. And the role of the NBC in elections, as you are saying, is quite crucial, because we must narrate and tell the story as it is evolving. You will recall that the issue of elections is a democratic principle that is embedded in the Constitution. So it doesn't matter what happens, elections must take place. And that also is a tenet that speaks to this great country called Namibia. So if we take NBC, our role is to make sure that all the political players, irrespective of party that they belong to, NBC must treat all of them very fairly and equally. Hence, through regulation under the regulatory body, CRAN, we are by law obliged to give each and every contestant that would be partaking equal airtime to this process. But here I need to brag. The law came in about 2015, but the foresight was already there. In 2013, 2014, the NBC already had a policy that spoke to free equal airtime. So for us, we are not doing things that we believe we are forced to. We are doing things that we know will cement that base that says democracy in this country is something that makes Namibia to be great. So on the media space, you also know where Namibia stands within the media space, and that would be NBC, all the other print media and broadcasters that are here. We've been able to gravitate between number 1, 2, and 3. So that speaks a lot about what we do. And globally as well, we are a force that is highly, highly recognized. And you know that I represent public broadcasters at SADC level as president of the Southern African Broadcasters Association. So there as well, it's amazing the respect that my colleagues, my peers, director generals and MDs are having around the NBC. They've been sending their staff for benchmarking to come and see what is this that we are doing. Maybe I believe we are too modest. We don't even tell our own people how great we are, but it gets to events of this nature where people really see what the worth of the NBC is.
Talking about events of this nature, I think if one looks at it in terms of the general coverage that we have as a media house, you want to be critical, balance certain sides, chase after story, etc., under normal business. But when it comes to elections, you have to sort of take a different tone, and you see that happening even with private media as well, to say, look, there is a unique responsibility during the time of the media where we have to park some of the commercial interest a little bit and focus on the sanctity of the institution that we're trying to protect, which is, of course, is Republic and the institution of the elections that take place. Chat to us a little bit around that, particularly from an editorial standpoint and how you deal with that with the management team.
You know, Ricardo, 2-3 days back, I had a reflection to say that if one now looks at how our broadcast is, particularly on NBC One and all the radio stations, we have literally gravitated towards becoming a 24-hour news service. Because everything that we've been broadcasting ever since a day or two before has been centered around everything elections. To the extent that people like yourselves, I know you guys are as tired as can be. Some of you crashed here on the chairs in the cars because we were all waiting to see when the final result will be coming. Now, what is this that we need to do that will give the person that is listening or watching or reading online the comfort that what NBC is doing is there? For us editorially, there are certain points that are no-go areas. For instance, we will not ridicule people. We will report factually on what is happening. We will not push to break news, but we will want to be the first with correct, fact-checked, and precise information. If we are late with a minute, 2 or 3, so be it. But we would want to, by the time we go on air, we know exactly that what we put out is editorially sound, and it will stand any test that would come and check our credibility. So in that regard, we are very happy. That is why today we see this now as an ongoing view and position, particularly with the presence of online and the smartphone, fake news, misinformation. It fills me with pride, extreme, but extend it to my team. When stories are running, people reading online, because everybody today with a smartphone is a publisher. They can put anything on air. You will hear people saying, okay, we've seen this one, what is NBC saying? Now, that is quite good, because we've become sort of a validation point, but it comes with extreme responsibility.
Because, of course, growing up, we used to always say that if it didn't show up on the news at 8, it didn't happen.
Yes, yeah.
That's the verification, and that's the kind of credibility you say from a strategic approach.
We've been having. But now with the way the technology has evolved, we find that in online space, people will still say, oh, this is what you are saying. Let me quickly go and check what is NBC saying. So that does put a lot of pressure on us. So we continuously have discussions with the editorial teams, the journalists. Myself, I lead from the front. I sit, I discuss, call in, indicate, first of all, relationship between reporter, camera person, the relationship in the newsroom, your editors, and everybody, producers, presenters. So for us, that whole mix of what we do is what makes us really to be a place where we have fun. Because I always tell people, in as much as you're working hard and smart, also have fun, because then you will not feel pressure.
And man, I mean, just the level of passion, the people that you've put together, the team, the kind of passion that they have, the love for their country it just shines out in terms of the kind of delivery that we're seeing coming in from the team. But that brings me to my next question, because for the most part, when you're covering an event like this, whether it's the Founding Fathers' funeral or whether it's the elections, it's a massive logistical exercise. And the last time we were looking at around, was it 3 or 4 contribution centers? And those numbers have jumped up until 7. Just take us through a little bit around how expansive the coverage was this time around compared to last time, some of the additions that needed to be made and so on, and just a logistical and operational picture of the coverage.
Extremely. To the extent, the last count I had, I think we have close to 70, 80 teams independently running, but all coordinating to a center. The other thing that works for us is that our whole news system is centralized, and there's a serious reason behind that. We have indicated when I came and said that, look, we're not going to have a newsroom that is fragmented. If we run a story as NBC on TV, the story must be identical on radio, because we don't want to cause confusion amongst the public. Now, the logistics around this is a nightmare. But the thing that has been very helpful for us is the way in which technology has moved. You would have seen that we are broadcasting from areas that would previously not be possible. And the reason why that is happening, and here I must credit MICT as the driver of ICT generally, the mobile operators, where they have dedicated strong broadband known as bandwidth, for others as internet, their presence there makes it today very possible for us to stream via IP. So you can literally be anywhere. If at least we get closer to a 4G type of streaming, then we can do good television. For radio, we need less, so we can broadcast from anywhere. And the smartphone, it's amazing. Many of the stories that you see also now covering the elections, many of them have been captured on a smartphone. And there's equipment as well that allows you software to actually do your edits. So in deploying, in assisting us, we had the Mojo Pros, the KiloViews, AV West, and with the addition of the smartphones, I think where we are doing well, but it's a very costly exercise. Like now, we had to extend people that are in the regions to stay where they are, because until such time that the final results are put out, we don't know what may happen. Maybe the ECN themselves may want to go back, do a verification. We want to be there. We want to be part of that story. We want to be that conduit that tells as to what is happening. So from the logistics perspective, I had a challenge earlier in the week, and it was a big one, Ricardo. The Berseba area, which covers quite a huge area, their system went down. There was no radio, there was no TV, and I had to look for a helicopter. Nampol normally assists us, but they came back saying that the sling that they used to carry equipment, because there were huge batteries that we had to take there, they said it's broken. We contacted the Ministry of Defense, and they said their helicopters are busy, because with the election, sometimes they need to ferry people that need to go to polling bases that may not have means. So we were forced now to go. There's one private entity that has a helicopter service, and it's based in Otjwarongo. I told Ms. Shipanga, our chief technology officer, I said, no, just contact them, tell them we want the helicopter. The cost.
Please don't mention it here. Just send a variation order to Treasury.
Yes, but I just informed the chairman to say, Chair, this is a cost that we will have to incur. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that democracy was never cheap.
Never cheap. And particularly with the mandate that the NBC has, I mean, you cannot say, look, it doesn't make commercial sense for us to go to Opu, because there is that legal mandate, that public information mandate. That
and as NBC, we will be at areas that have no commercial value, because what is important is for us to allow people to have a say, to allow people to be heard, and also equally communicate in the broader sense programs and projects that the government has on the table. Because if NBC is not there, there is no way that we can create a dialogue between the electorate and together with the normal people that are on the ground.
But Of course, I mean, I just want us to shift our conversation a little bit to the platforms. But before we do that, if you just join us, we're coming to you live from the Central Election Results Center. Well, we are literally minutes, even hours or minutes away from getting the final tally of the results. We're standing at about 76% for the local authority and a little bit over 66% for the regional councils that have been declared so far here at the center. We are catching up right now to discuss the logistical exercise that is the coverage of these elections with the Director General of the NBC. I wanted to just focus a little bit also on the platforms. I remember when digital media's advent came, many people thought that switch will completely drop TV, terrestrial television, will completely drop radio and focus more on the online platforms. But what we've seen has happened is that people now still watch TV, still listen to radio, but then discuss what they're seeing there online. And man, all 9 radio stations represented here at the ECN. Talk to us a little bit around making sure that all the platforms are covered, not just TV, but radio is such an integral part of it.
We have 100% outlook and outflow in terms of what is happening, from a radio to television to the handset, which is the smartphone these days. And the point that you are raising, what is very interesting is that you will hear someone listening on radio too, for instance, a result from any area. And then they will take that onto their own page and say, oh, I just heard this now on NBC, and the results are like this. What's happening with that party? And the same, others watch TV, they do the same. The others are just on their pages and they start cross-sharing the information. Now, the technological advancement has brought about convergence. And that convergence says that you can literally be anywhere. And it goes a step further. I mean, you're working with a smart TV here. Smart TVs these days can also be connected wirelessly, internet, broadband. So the whole aspect of where we are, it's an element of advancement that we cannot run away from. The only thing that we must do as NBC, the vast information that is coming through our ways, we need to be in a position to make sure that whatever we take out is credible and people can trust. But there's another thread linked to this, Ricardo. The more you go high in technology, maybe cloud-based or whatever, the possibility of a cyber attack is there. Just about a week or so back, I was speaking to technology and telling them, I said, guys, we at all material times must make sure that our firewalls are such that people should not break in. Imagine if someone takes over the whole broadcast of the NBC, change result and put on the results that are...
Look, we're talking about potential regime change. You could be accused of treason.
So for us, we are not just looking at what we must put out for people to listen, hear, and see, but we must also manage that aspect of risk. And as we speak now, the technology department, particularly the IT, they are on high alert in terms of managing and monitoring real-time what is happening there. In fact, in the last discussion, we're going to be upping the game, because in my capacity as SABA president, I've been privy to a process where we have ethical hackers. These are the people that will help you, tell you that, look, this one wants to come in, do this and that, yeah. So
test the redundancies
yes. So that's a process that we will strongly bring into the NBC as well. So back to technology, I think we are here, we are there, we are everywhere. We are NBC. It is ours.
So when we're talking about it's ours, that's living up to the mantra.
Look, it does not get better than the discussion that we are having now.
True.
And another thing that you may not know, since a year ago, or maybe 2 years back, we were clocking at 1.6 million people on average on all our platforms. The last research results that we've checked were at 2.1 million. These are now people on the smartphone, they are on radio, they are on TV, they are literally everywhere where NBC is. And NBC Plus as a medium is also quite a big thing. And we're pushing deliberately also most of our programming via YouTube, because the Facebook thing for extended programming does not work for me, because it has no commercial value for the NBC. And there's a reason why. One thing that we can't do, Ricardo, maybe just a quick one on that one, we can't devalue our content. because we are at a stage now where the commercialization thereof will become a reality. But some other day, your new DG will speak around that, because that will be something that is already in the making.
So
but it will be
legacy, part of the
yes,
legacies.
But it will be implemented, yeah.
The one thing I really also wanted to touch on, and I think it's also talking about legacy. You know that question is coming up. One thing I really wanted to touch on, and I think which I will count in as part of your legacy as well, is the involvement and the opportunity provided to a lot of young people. You've seen, I mean, man, so impressive. Just now you put on somebody like Jemima and Debele now, yes, next to Lot, to drink from that experienced cup. But of course, the working hours, just the confidence bestowed to training, put in there, the likes of Rivaldo that were leading the voter education efforts, some of the other younger guys that were, of course, in the field, very, very young camera people, production crew that we also have here, working with us here at ECN. I think just a brief reflection from your side also in terms of taking that risk and that chance, not just recognizing the demographic of the population, but also just taking the risk and that chance, because it's a very, I mean, within a second or two, things can go awfully wrong. Eh?
Look, early this year, you will know that when the president announced the aspect of companies having to onboard young people, we were already there, because just yesterday, I was speaking to a group of about 50 young people that have graduated, that are graduating from the NBC's drama school. That's another project, and it's running well. We started that about 4.5 years ago. Through that process up to date, we have taken about 490 young people through film making, radio, program making, and theater training. Purely young people from the ages of 18 to 35. So that part of the business is something where we are contributing towards the arts aspect. So when the president said that companies must do this, we were already there, and we are busy doing that. But when we look inside NBC, and you are right, I mean, if you look at our camera operators, very young people, they must come in, they must learn the skill, and they may not, it does not sound very funny. They may not necessarily stay at NBC, because what we want to create are entrepreneurs.
Please don't point fingers, DG. Please don't point fingers.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, look at you. Yeah. You were with us, and today, where are you? This is the type of outputs that we would want to see happening. Young people should not be scared. They must come to NBC. We will onboard them. And when they believe that there's an entrepreneurial opportunity for them, they must take it. And they can always come back to us to also back them up. Women as well. In our top management, the majority is women. Just the level under there of HOD, the majority is women. Our radio stations are run predominantly by women. So the aspect of us having diversity and catering for groups that would ordinarily not be there is happening. And we have this touch radio for young people as well. It's 100% driven by young people on their own. And you know what, I get calls from people who are my age. DG, these people on that station Touch, they are talking things there that, are you listening to them? The first thing I ask is, how old are you? 52. I said, okay.
Please switch back to National FM, Chief.
You are not part of the target audience, yeah. And then they understand. So these are the liberties and freedoms that we have created as a public entity that understands the role of actually educating, uniting, and also, very importantly, remember, we must also promote the use of English in this country. Until that changes, nothing will change. But at the same time, as NBC, we are not saying that all other languages are not important. That's why, from a radio perspective, we are catering from languages, from a cultural perspective, away from the English language itself.
Well, I think, DG, I'm not sure whether I'm going to have another opportunity to sit down and chat with you like this after the elections. We know, of course, that your tenure is coming to an end. You've indicated that you don't have any plans to really still stay around. And I've asked you about this before we came on the platform. And my question, of course, was which year was it actually that you started here at the NBC? And you're talking about, I mean, 30+ years ago during the transition as well. Just take us through that as well, because I mean, you know, when we sit back and look at this as well, particularly for public servants such as yourself that have been in the spaces, whether it was here, whether it was leading in the telecommunications before you came to NBC, it takes a lot of sacrifice to do this kind of work. And we praise the politicians for dedication and commitment, but it hardly comes to the private sector or the civil servants. But I just want you to just take a step back and just walk the audience through your journey with the NBC, starting off, of course, with the transition.
Yeah. Look, I most probably am one of the very lucky Namibians that at the time of transition from the colonial rule to independence, I was already involved in the media. I worked for radio, by the way. I started at radio. And then with that transition, when the SWAPO party-led leadership came into being, I was moved from there to television. And I went in as a camera person, and I still can brag. I think I'm still one of the best video editors that you can find.
With the new technology, can you...
Well, no. Look, this thing is my life.
There we go.
Yeah, this thing is my life. But then I had the opportunity to work with the transition. I think then the DG was named Gorlick. I've worked with Naim Golik as a DG. I've worked with Dr. Ben Mulongeni as a DG. The late Dan Chongarero, also as a Director General. And then throughout that phase, I went into the newsroom. I worked there coordinating all things IT, by the way. I was running the news management system. Then I can't recall what the program was.
It wasn't iNews.
No, it was not. It was not. And then from there, I then went to TV Output. I was a TV Output editor as well, and I worked with guys there that some of them are no more. Strangely enough, because then I did some enhancement in human resource management, I went to HR.
Okay, so
I worked in HR.
Radio. We moved to TV editing, news, etc. And then Output. Now we're talking about
HR. I was involved in NBC HR, and then after a year or so, I think the late Tulinani Mvula was then the head managing that under the auspices of Mr. Vitura Kavari. Then I was brought back. I then had to form television local programs department, which is today known as Content Hub. I am the creator of a program that is still running today called Talk of the Nation.
Wow.
That's my brainchild with the support of my teams. And there's many other programs, legacy ones, that are still running, particularly on the TV side. And that's what we did. I worked with the guys like the Kamungus, Sebastians, the Aaron's Fenskes, and all the Penny Ukundes, Aserntindas, Dr. Charles Mubitas. I think Rachel Govas, I can mention the team. But then I reached a point, Ricardo, in my life where I felt that things were not moving for me. So I just came this one Sunday, I said, no, I will leave. That Monday I came in, cleaned my desk, and I submitted my resignation. I didn't have a job, I didn't know what I would do. But I just felt that I've reached a point where things are not moving for me. And guess what? 2-3 days after that, I got a job. I got into this job. 3 weeks later, I got another job. This one is better. I took it. I ended up in Rospina. I'm a founding executive of Scorpion Zinc Mine, a startup, which was a very good experience for me. But unfortunately, at a personal level, one of my daughters were very sick. And then Rospina, as a town at the time, could not give the needed medical support. So I resigned as well, and I came back to Windhoek. Within 3 days, FNB approached me. They took me for coffee. The next day, I heard you must come and start. And then I was there for a couple of years. Then Cell One came, which was a second startup. Dr. Liake Ngala called me and said, Stan, come. You must come help us set up this thing. I'm a founding executive of what is today known as TN Mobile, yeah, which was quite a good experience. And then from there, the opportunity came at the NBC. And then I said, yeah, I did tell myself that I'll come back to NBC. Let me try, maybe I'll be lucky. And guess what? I was appointed as Director General. And then the journey from there has quite been one very eventful, very exciting, very frustrating, but very rewarding from a creation perspective.
So eventful. I want to draw attention to three of those. First, I think COVID.
Yes.
You had to bear the brunt of COVID.
Ish.
And then we had to bury two presidents sitting in form. I think it's not it's one of those feats that you cannot discount.
I was very scared when the sitting president passed. My immediate thoughts were, NBC will now be expected to do a program that has never been seen. I called the team, I said, this is now the hour of reckoning. If ever we have said that we are good at what we are doing, this will be the moment that will tell us. But guess what, Ricardo? I sat with the team. I had two war rooms. One was in my office, and one was at my house. Because straight from office, I would go there, and the family were told, don't set up everything that I needed so that I could be there real time. But we carried this production up to the level. I got someone send me a WhatsApp saying, Similo, just be honest. Where did you hire the white people to come and do the work for you?
I mean, we were getting questions like
you understand?
Oh, did you buy new cameras?
Yes, yeah. And then that's when then I realized that we are also not communicating a lot. People don't know about the great things that we're doing, but we use that as an opportunity for people to see. I mean, the way we carried that, the detail that went into that, it was just amazing, amazing, amazing. And I've gone through a couple of elections, so at least the experience in this regard is fully embedded. It's not something new for us. Where we are now, we could expand.
Definitely. We could go on and on when we have this kind of conversations, but going forward, I think from a legacy perspective, I just want to point out, and I know, of course, we're at the Electoral Center, but arguably am I correct in saying that this is arguably your last big production that you're overseeing as a Director General?
I think I can affirm that unless if something happens, God forbid, nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Just from your side as well, just if you can point out one or two big takeaways from you during your tenure.
Yeah, there's one production that remains with me, and I think it was either, I'm not sure whether it was 93 or 94. It was when we had the first broadcast at Ongulumbashe. But then it was the time when the late founding father was still president, and the late President Hage Geingob was prime minister.
So that's at the time we couldn't pull lines?
Ricardo, I got called to a cabinet meeting. I was the manager of domestic programs today known as Content Hub. And I get there and I was shaking because, look, these are the big guns there. And I got in there, and it was the Wednesday before a long weekend of Easters. And I come in there and I'm shaking like it's the minister's here. And the president, Shafshuna Nuyoma, is there, and strict men. Come in, relax. They gave me water, but... And then they said, no, we just want to find out from you. We want to broadcast from Ongulumbashe. Is it possible? I said, yes, it is possible. And then they asked me, can NBC do it? I said, no, NBC will not be able to do it. But will you be able to do it? I said, yes. How will you do it? I said, no, we'll just have to get special equipment from outside. And I was told, do it. And then I went out. At the door, I came back.
Big promise.
So now, remember, I also didn't even know how to address the president. I said, Mr. President, I didn't know the honorable things or excellency in them. I said, there's a problem here now. You've called me. I'm the manager. I have a DG. How do I inform them?
There's already a problem there. There's already a disconnect.
And, he said, no, anyone who has a problem, tell them they must call Nuyoma.
Decision has been made.
So I went out, I called Stephen Kotz. I said, Stephen, call a company called Airtime in SA. Tell them we want a van with satellite capacity. They need to go to the north. Sure. That's how that deal came through. But then before, the other thing that I had to explain, because I took the team through come and work here. I would have a van with a satellite, we'll beam it to the satellite, it goes to a station, and then it would come back and then to NBC, and then NBC would transmit for everybody. So the late Hage asked, Similo, are you saying we will sit there now and watch how this thing is going like that? I said, no. By the time you switch on the TV, you will just see it. Yeah, but sadly so. That was also the year where Dr. Mabita lost his wife in a car accident. And he would be our main presenter, anchor. But we were lucky because we had a lady with us, Virginia Witz, who would be producing the show. So we just switched the roles as well. And then she could manage the program for us. And we pulled it off. Monday, I was called to a meeting, a special one, where congratulations were bestowed onto NBC and so on.
There you go. Now, I think that I just actually
that one for me remains.
That remains the big
one. And
one.
then the other one was the passing of the sitting president.
Of the sitting president. I think that
those two for me were like, because August one, I was scared that, what if we don't fulfill or cover this thing? And with the elections, of course, with the elections always, the view that you have in terms of what you put out becomes important from a credibility perspective. So the elections, we've covered many of them. And then with this one in particular, we've really gone out of the way to make sure that the representation is well. And we must also thank the ECN's management for feeding us with the information all the time. And guys like you, interpreting, analyzing, and speaking, and then the teams coming on live and all of that. You can see the mixture of experience, young presenters, anchors. But as NBC, I think we have arrived. We really have arrived.
I agree. I agree, 100%. And I just want to ask this last one. I think with regards to the conversation, and with such an illustrious career, we will not be able to do justice in the amount of time that we have right now, but that perhaps invites another opportunity to have that sit down. I hope Mr. Deng is listening to me when I'm saying this right now. I'm just throwing a hint. But nonetheless, in conclusion, obviously, having spent this time in broadcasting, they say it's in your blood. I don't want to ask what you're going to do next. I think that will be for the special program that we're going to do in the coming week or two. But for the staff at NBC, I just want you to leave that message. What is it that you want them to take forward? The staff at NBC, and how should the nation also view NBC? Because it's always very contentious, entertainment here, this, that. We want new movies, we want this or that. But from your perspective, what is it that you want Namibians to protect about NBC, and how do you want the NBC staff to take the institution forward?
Let me maybe start with the public side of NBC. The NBC is that thing or element in your life that you love to hate. You will hear a lot of people saying, no, I don't watch NBC. I don't care what is good. But we know it's not true. Because the moment there is some challenge, the ones that are saying they are the first ones to call you and say, what is happening? Why is it not there? So we know that people are watching. That's the one. And we are bringing in technology soon that will allow the NBC to say, Ricardo, we see you're watching NBC, but you've not paid your license. It will show on your screen. We will forgive you for this evening. You can still watch. But for tomorrow, it might just be black. So that technology is coming, but that's an announcement that I'm leaving for our line minister to make very, very soon. Now, for the staff of the NBC, I think where things started changing for us was when we had a bus on board. Oh, I must not say a bus. Papso. Oh, I must also not say Papso. I must say Ambassador. They started the process of trying to fix the things within. But the challenges that were there were immense. At least they started with the process. So when I came, because I was in the private sector, I decided I will want to run the NBC as a private entity. And I had a little bit of challenges in getting the mindset inside the NBC to see that. But fast forward, I think where we are today, for those that are remaining, there's a lot of greatness that we've done, that is happening, that is there. And the message that I want to leave is to say that, look, the only constant really in life is change. And this is most probably where many of them will be faced with. It's change. Change is that thing that we must accept and move with it. And me leaving the NBC, I believe that I'm leaving an entity for the next Director General who will find something that is really working very well. It will be for that individual then to push forward and then introduce things that he or she thinks needs to be there. The shareholder must support the NBC financially, because the current construct of how this thing exists is linked to it being supported 100% by government. At this stage, the support that we're getting, I think it's about 78%, and it depends year per year. Because if we bring out good revenue, then that percentage can drop to about 70. At any time, at any given year, we generate about 100 million on our own, but that's never enough to run this business. On paper, what we have, you need at least about 420 million to be able to do all businesses, because, Ricardo, we must go to areas that do not have any commercial value. You must go and set up these things, do the business, have people go there, and it's expensive. Like now, with these elections, I'm going to be doing my numbers 3-4 weeks from now. And I know for sure those numbers will ask me, DG, are you liquid enough to be able to pay? But this is a job that we must do. So for the NBC staff, remain united as a team. Keep your focus, because your being here is to serve the Namibian people, irrespective of race, irrespective of political party, irrespective of any form of ism that is there. Our job, we must be seen to be the credible entity. Hence, from a covering news perspective, we must work very hard to make sure that we earn the trust. We must earn it. You cannot tell people. People must see you doing things so that they can get and embed the trust that you are having.
It's such a sensitive thing, but I'm not going to be doing justice to the conversation if I don't touch on the Africa aspect of it. We know your generation have been very staunch, very strong Pan-Africanists. I mean, many of us have learned from your generation in terms of, the relationship that we have with the continent and the region. And now you're, of course, also stepping off. You've been head of SABA as well. Give me that brief reflection also for the region and how you see the media. I know the bigger chat always for Africa has been that Western media hegemony that we've had, where we've always been the recipients of news. But now we are producing it that amongst ourselves as well, ION, SADC, etc., etc. Just give me a brief reflection in terms of, the SABA, the role of just the state of the media within the region, and you also, of course, going to be stepping down from that as well.
Yes, no, the changes are also visible. They are there. I engage at the level of SADC. About a month and a half back, I was in Botswana speaking to His Excellency, the Executive Director of SADC, informing as to what we are doing as a broadcasting block within SADC. And interestingly enough for you, we are not a chapter currently as SABA within SADC. But His Excellency Dr. Mahosi said that he will make sure that SABA gets its place there. So we can already see with the programs that we are pushing out currently, we have ION SADC, which is a television news program that is curated in Namibia, by the way, and it goes to the rest of SADC. And then from Maseru, Lesotho, we have the radio equivalent called SADC 360. Those things are working well. We are now close to finalizing the channel aspect of it, where we will now have a dedicated SADC TV channel as well. We are now busy speaking to other blocks on the continent. Remember, the continent from a broadcast perspective is also divided in English, Kiswahili, and there's French, Portuguese, and some elements. And in some elements, you have the Arab-speaking countries as well. So we are busy now trying to see how can we harmonize that, and we're working through the AU, by the way, and the UN to assist us in that regard. And there's good progress. There's good progress.
I think I've got like 3-4 other questions that I want to throw to you as well, but I just want to really thank you for making time out to come and join us, I think, on the platform just to have the conversation. I sort of hijacked the election chat to throw that in, sort of caught you off guard, but thank you for indulging me in that as well. And I think from the side of NBC, really, and Namibia as well, I also really just want to extend my thanks and appreciation for the service. You know, it takes so much to do the kind of work that you do. Some people were saying, of course, the contest is on, Ricardo, the DG, why didn't you throw in? I said, Chief, I know. If I have a good weekend, I don't want to be bothered Monday morning, but if you're Director General, there's no option of that. And providing that, of course, from different levels within the organization, moving to other institutions, of course, but serving the Namibian public in all these different forms, I really just want to extend my thanks. And just to say congratulations, I mean, on a very, very successful tenure. And, you know, you have your ups and downs, but like you said, what you're leaving the institution with, we can all see the work and the results of that. So this one is from the staff of the NBC, particularly for overseeing this last biggest broadcast as Director General.
They are very clever. Someone was throwing in something called the once-off, but that's an NBC talk. We'll not discuss it here. Thank you very much.
For next week.
No. But thank you very much. Thank you.
There we go. That's the Director General of the Namibia Broadcasting Corporation, Stanley Similo, just coming in, of course, to chat to us about it. We invited him to talk to us around the election coverage and the operational performance, of course, of the team. But little did he know that I had a little trick up my sleeve, because I knew that this was, of course, the last big production under his tutelage as the Director General of the NBC, as he's going to be stepping down in the next couple of weeks, and of course handing over to another able successor here as well. That's it, of course. As we know, in the next few minutes we're still going to be opening up. We're coming to live from the CERC, the Central Election Results Center, and anytime you have to stick to the screens, we will be bringing you the final collated and of course verified results of the 2025 Regional Council and Local Authority elections. For now, let me quickly cross back into the studio. Nina, it's over to you.